Hey, what's up? How you doing today? I'm doing good. I'm gonna share Millionaire Fastlane. This will be chapters 4 through 7. This video is part 2 of a 15-part series, and I really do appreciate you joining me. So hopefully you've bought the book by now. If not, but if you have, and it doesn't matter if you bought the book, but if not, then we're just gonna go over chapters 4 through 6 today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Yep. Alright, so MJ DeMarco once again. Chapter 4 is entitled The Roadmaps to Wealth, and he presents this question, it's kind of starting off the chapter, that says, if you don't know where you're going, how will you know when you get there? And that's a really profound question to ask yourself, is because if you don't know the destination of your goals, then how do you expect to achieve those goals if you don't know kind of like what the end result is, the end picture? And I've been doing that more with my business. I've been planning the end of it and how I want it to be 5, 10, 15 years from now, so that I can kind of work backwards when I'm doing my actions. DeMarco presents this question, which is, how do beliefs affect finances? So if you think about it, if you believe that earning a certain amount of money requires a certain amount of hours put in as far as time, if you believe that only the wealthy are the wealthy, that you can't possibly achieve that, any type of beliefs about money that are limiting will affect your choices, and the choices affect how you act, and those actions do affect your finances. So the thing is, it all starts from beliefs. You have to have a belief that you can learn and apply what you've learned to increase your income exponentially, and that's a belief that I've strengthened by reading this book. DeMarco presents 3 roadmaps. So the first roadmap being the sidewalk. Second being the slow lane, and the third is the fast lane. And these are roadmaps that have destinations already. And the destinations so the sidewalk, the destination is poorness. The slow lane, the destination is mediocrity. And for the fast lane, the definition is wealth. And of course, I have my notes this time. Always have my notes. So what DeMarco points out is that there's an idea of true essence. So he explained this in the book as well. So there's an idea of true essence, that you have to be special to break true essence. People who are maybe teenagers who get discovered on like Disney Channel, and then they make music and songs and then they blow up. For example, Miley Cyrus. These people were special to break true essence. But the true essence of the sidewalk, which is the very slowest roadmap, is poorness. If you are not saving your money, if you're not managing your money well, if you're not putting your money into appreciable assets and you have cash just sitting around, then maybe you are on the sidewalk, and the sidewalk's true essence, its true destination, is poorness. So just consider that. So for the slow lane, the true destination is mediocrity. And the slow lane is, as I mentioned in the last video, is kind of where I dabble sometimes. And that's when I get bad with my money. That's when I don't record how much I make and how much I spent. That's when I invest, or I don't invest. I just keep the money sitting in my account, just sitting there and making very, very meager returns on my savings account. So that's the true essence of the slow lane. It is mediocrity. But the fast lane is why I picked up this book, and it's also what I'm studying right now. The fast lane's true essence is wealth, and that's because the fast lane is governed by a wealth equation that allows you to have unlimited and controlled leverage at the same time with your products, with your website, and you decide how much time you want to put in, how much money you want to make, how much you want to pay your employees, all that type of stuff. And that's really what I'm interested in. That's fast lane talk. But the slow lane is working 5 days and then being 2 off, working 8-hour shifts for a wage and having no control or no leverage because your boss isn't going to suddenly give you a 200% raise or offer you another 72 hours for you to get some overtime. And I mean, that may happen, but he's not going to do it over and over and over again. But when you have your own business, you can determine how much effort you want to put into it, how many people you want to reach, and then how much you want to sell your products for, and who you want to sell your product. Well, I don't know if you can say who you want to sell your products to, but hopefully you get the idea by now. So you have the idea of true essence, and each roadmap is governed by a wealth equation, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the future videos to come. But they're all predisposed to a financial destination. One time, I'll review them one more time. The sidewalk leads to poorness. The slow lane leads to mediocrity. And the fast lane leads to wealth. We're going to go to chapter 5 now. Let's see, it's a smooth transition to chapter 5. Chapter 5, DeMarco kind of shifts a little bit, but not really, because he gives a brief overview of the sidewalk roadmap. And if you're watching this video, you want to avoid the sidewalk for real. Like, you've gotten this far, at least to watching this video. The sidewalk is not for you, I do promise, because the sidewalk's true essence destination is poorness. Don't want to be poor. The sidewalker is just a state, one something from broke, one album from broke, one release from broke, one paycheck from broke. These are people who don't have a financial destination. These are people that their plan is to have no plan. So I'm very fortunate because I have people in my life, I'd say family and friends, but not so much friends anymore, more so acquaintances who I've met, and they have no plan for finances, or their plan doesn't stretch longer than 7 days or 14 days because they believe that they're living in the moment and that there's no reason to save money or to have an emergency or rainy day fund. I have a rainy day emergency fund. When I hear them say that, at first I used to critique myself, like, maybe am I doing something wrong for having cash stored on the side? But then I realized that I had a decent game-winning philosophy, and their philosophy was, it's their philosophy, I'm not going to critique it, but I just prefer the rainy day fund. I guess you do whatever you want to, but this book highly encourages understanding your finances, saving up, and using that money to benefit yourself to make more money. I think DeMarco gives the example of the freedom fighters. Every dollar you have is a freedom fighter fighting for your freedom. It's really beautiful. So don't just be wasting your money on coffee and lifestyle, because that money can be used to buy your time. And once you have your time, you can do whatever you want. That's what I'm shooting for here. That was a huge tangent, but the sidewalk roadmap, back to it, the time perception of a sidewalker is time is abundant, and I spend money like there's no tomorrow. So there's somebody who is saying, hey, YOLO, you only live once, I'm going to spend it while I get it. I spend it as fast as I can get it. That person could be a very affluent sidewalker. That person could have a huge income, but also be spending a huge amount and have debts or cars or leases or houses and things that they have to pay for every month. So in appearance, they appear to be wealthy and affluent, but by the financial statement, and they could tell you inside that they're losing money and they're not gaining money and they're not saving it or investing, and eventually they'll become bankrupt. That's another tangent. But it's just really interesting because DeMarco says, hey, don't be fooled by the Benzes and the nice house and the kids who go to private school, because and the person that might be making $500,000 a year, because if they're spending $490,000, well, that's good if they're spending $490,000, but if they're spending $505,000 or $510,000, then they're on the sidewalk, and they're not saving money, they're not investing, and they're not gaining any money either. So to everyone, they appear to be living the life. Just be aware of that. He says, for the sidewalker spends every dime and pays most of their bills on time, and they believe that that's being financially responsible. But he says there's much more to that. The primary income stream for the sidewalker is whatever gig pays the most. It's really interesting because I have some family members who I love dearly, by the way, love dearly, but they've always encouraged me to just kind of move up the ranks and start making, $12 an hour, $15 an hour. See, whoever pays the most an hour, that's where we go. But DeMarco says that it's not about, what they pay an hour. It's about how much you can extract from that and use to funnel into your own money tree, into your own business, so that your business creates that income. Honestly, I'm not interested in how much rate I'm getting per hour, even though it's important because, if I had more, I'd be making more. But at the same time, I only need a little bit of cash on the side to start really getting into my business. That's what I need. That's going to be my boost to eventually create this money tree, this system where my business can generate income, and then the rate that I get paid right now would be irrelevant because I'll eventually surpass that rate, and then I'll have complete unlimited control over my business, and then I can just determine my own rate. Just work so hard that I determine how much I get paid per hour, which is really interesting. There's no employer signing my check for a rate at that point. There's no, hey, can I get 200% raise, Mr. Boss, Mrs. Boss. There's no more of that because I am Mr. Boss and Mrs. Boss at the same time. Not Mrs. Boss, Mr. Boss. So he says that the wealth perception of a sidewalker is wealth equals income plus debt. And I'll give you just a quick example of me. That be wealth equals my paycheck plus my student debt right now. And I would be, I'm not gonna lie, I would be negative right now. So that's not the accurate wealth equation that I want for me. By the way, I don't want to be on the sidewalk. I want to be in the fast lane. He says the responsibility and control for a sidewalker is that everything bad happens to me, that I'm the victim. So if you're playing the victim role right now, you might be on the sidewalk. It's questions, hashtags, am I on the sidewalk? That's really what we're trying to get at here. And if you are on the sidewalk, then realize it and get the hell off, seriously, because it leads to poorness, not even to mediocrity. Don't you want to be mediocre? You can't be mediocre on the side lane or on the sidewalk. It's straight poorness. The life perception of a sidewalker is live today to hell with tomorrow. That's the YOLO. And what's really interesting, let's see, one more thing is money doesn't solve money problems. So the more money you accumulate, don't think just because you have a new law settlement or you got 100,000 or you got a certain financial benefit where you certainly have a new amount of money. Don't think just because you have more money that you can resolve money problems. You still have to learn how to accumulate money, how to invest it wisely, how to protect your assets, how to grow your account. You still have to know how to do that in order to retain your money. So if you win the lottery tomorrow, if you do actually win the lottery or a raffle for some money and you're just like, well, now that I have it, I can start building wealth. That's not exactly true. You have to understand wealth first and apply it to retain it, which is really interesting. So I've gone a little long, so we'll just head to chapter 6, which is the final chapter in our review today. And the title of chapter 6 is Has Your Wealth Been Toxified? And there are 3 fundamental F's that DeMarco presents, which are kind of like the F's that I'm chasing while reading and studying this book. And the first one is family, the second one is fitness, and the third one is freedom. In the book, he kind of dives a little bit more into how this philosophy can influence each of these 3 areas. So like I said, I really highly do recommend this book. But the illusion of wealth is what's really interesting, and I kind of touched back on it in the last chapter, but DeMarco says that there's a certain thing as a 30K millionaire. And the 30K millionaires are people, like I said, who appear with the Benzes and the nice houses, and they have all the nice designer clothing, but on the financial statement, they're really lacking. That's really interesting. So don't get yourself caught up in what DeMarco presents as faux wealth, F-E-A-U-X, or no, I'm sorry, F-A-U-X wealth, faux wealth, which is when you appear to others as if you're wealthy, you have the latest gadgets and everything you have is interesting and you're popping and people love it right now, but on the inside you're materialistic, so to the point where you have to keep up with the Joneses, as everyone says, but you have to spend your money to be relevant. And when you're doing that, you're really destroying your real chance at being wealthy, because you're spending your freedom fighters. And your freedom fighters, like I said, are your dollar bills that are in your account that are fighting for you to break the bond between time and money, which is really the goal here. So I'm wrapping up here. I'll give you one more thing that DeMarco says. He says, unaffordable material possessions are destructive to the wealth trinity, and then the wealth trinity, once again, is number 1 is family, number 2 is fitness, and number 3 is freedom. The whole goal of reading this book, the whole goal of studying this book is so that you can create something wonderful that you've worked really hard on, a project, a life project, and you've developed a system where you can now start reaping the benefits being money, free of your time, so you'd get freedom. You'd be able to spend more time with your family every day and enjoy everything that is going on with them and your friends, and just hang out who you want to hang out with. And then number 2 would be fitness. You'd be able to work out, eat healthy. You'd just be able to live a life that's free, that you can determine your own means and how you want to go about things. And you wouldn't have to clock in anymore unless you wanted to, which is really beautiful, because after this video, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 hours after that, I have to clock in. Not because I want to, because I have a job. Okay, so that's why I'm working on this business. That's why I'm developing my money tree, and getting a visual of the end goal and understanding my destination and having a plan, at least a light plan, to take some action, so that one day, very soon, and this will be in the next few months, I'll start making from my business the same amount I'm making from my job, and I'll be able to make that decision. Is this job really wasting my time because I'm making more on the side? That's my dream, and I'm working towards it. I hope you have a wonderful day. It's been a pleasure serving you. And then we will have a 3rd video coming up, which will be chapters 7 through 9, Millionaire Fastlane, MJ DeMarco. This is a hell of a book. I highly encourage you get it soon. It's Dallas Simon signing off. Peace.